Hello everyone, and welcome back. I'm Mark Miller, and this is my weekly video update sharing insights and advice about public relations and communications. As always, if you have questions or would like to learn more about my services, visit markmillerpr.com. Today, I'm going to share a few thoughts on the use of press releases. So, when we talk about press releases, especially among those of us who work in public communications or public relations, there are a few sayings and jokes that fly around. Maybe you've heard one or both of these. First, PR stands for public relations, not press release. And second, press releases are not a communication strategy. Maybe you've heard those, maybe you haven't. The bottom line is, for those of you who don't work in communications, your PR team should not be focused solely on press releases as their only function. And for those of us who do work in the business, we know that's just one of many tools we use. So what are press releases? I would say they're a useful tool to get information out to journalists all at one time, to really announce something. And the purpose behind them can be required or voluntary. So out of those two types, I'm going to talk more about the voluntary, but to hit on the required press release real briefly, I would just say to remember, if you have a required press release, perhaps you're a publicly traded company and the SEC requires that you do a press release for certain events that might occur. So, or in government work, government entities are often required to issue a press release for certain catalyst events. And when that happens, I would just say, remember, sure, you're required to send out the press release to a certain media list, and it's required to have, very clear and bulleted information. But remember that you can add the context that you may need to as necessary. So perhaps the event required to report on could be helped, your public image could be helped by adding some context to that. So very seldom do the state and federal laws of required press releases say that you cannot add additional context. Just keep that in mind. And that's all I'll say about the required press releases. Let's move on now to voluntary press releases. When you're thinking about issuing a press release, ask yourself 3 easy questions. 1, is this newsworthy? Now, of course, if you're thinking about issuing a press release, you think, yeah, of course this is newsworthy. Otherwise, why would I want to do a press release? Well, just ask yourself who it's newsworthy or noteworthy to, and then that can help guide you where to send your press release. For example, if something is very community-centric within your town or region, then newspaper, radio, and television outlets within that town or region should be very interested, and you can pitch that. Or maybe you've accomplished something or discovered something that's very relevant in your field, but perhaps not relevant to one given region. That still makes for a great press release, but probably better sent to a trade publication or a publication focused on that field in particular, because that's who will find it interesting, maybe not a broader audience that's based on a given region or other topic. So that's question 1, is it newsworthy? Question 2, does it positively impact your public image or the public image of your organization? Now, again, that sounds like common sense, but a lot of times we get caught up with wanting to announce something that was really a milestone or a benchmark for our organization. So internally, that's positive news. It's a great thing, and we want to share it with the world. But remember to put it in the right context that others will see this as positively impacting your image. You want to look from the perspective of that journalist and from the perspective of their audience to say, reading this from their shoes, do I see something that would have a positive impact on the image of my organization or on me? Ask yourself that, and that may help you shape that press release a little bit. Lastly, are you prepared for the questions that your press release could generate? So in rare instances, you will see journalists take your press release and do a newspaper article or potentially a short radio piece on just the press release and the photos you've provided. The information alone that you've provided was enough for them, and they ran the information. You will see that happen. But oftentimes, if a journalist is interested by your press release, they're going to want additional information, more details, perhaps an interview, maybe some photos. Look at your press release and say they might need or want. And can I address that ahead of time? Can I say that executives within the organization will be available, will have a media availability at a certain time on a certain date? That helps you get ahead of things. Or could you include some extra photos and then add in the press release more photos available upon request? You want to be as helpful as possible, but I'll get into those details in a later piece where I'll address how to write an effective press release. So for today, just really going over the big questions to ask, those three again. Is it newsworthy? Does it positively impact your public image? And are you prepared for the questions that your press release could or will generate? That's all for today. I hope you all have a great Tuesday. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.